The COVID-19 pandemic, which swept across the globe in early 2020, brought to the forefront an urgent need for global collaboration in health, economics, and governance. It disrupted nearly every facet of life, from daily routines to the global economy, and amplified existing inequalities. In the aftermath of the pandemic, a concept known as the Great Reset began to gain traction, particularly in discussions around economic recovery, sustainability, and global governance. This article explores the implications of COVID-19 and its intersection with the idea of the Great Reset, examining its origins, principles, and potential consequences for the future of global society. 1. The emergence of COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic emerged as a result of a novel coronavirus, later named SARS-CoV-2. The virus was first detected in Wuhan, China, in late 2019, and its rapid spread led the World Health Organization, WHO, to declare it a global pandemic in March 2020. Governments worldwide scrambled to respond to the virus's spread, imposing lockdowns, travel restrictions, and stringent public health measures to curb transmission. The pandemic caused profound social, economic, and psychological disruptions. Millions of lives were lost, economies were halted, and individuals around the world faced unprecedented challenges. The crisis exposed the vulnerabilities in global public health systems, the inequities in healthcare access, and the fragility of global supply chains. It also revealed the extent to which global societies were interconnected, with the actions of one country affecting others in a matter of days. In addition to the direct effects on human health, the pandemic triggered a global economic recession. Business closures, massive layoffs, and disruptions in the supply chain led to widespread economic hardship. Governments implemented large-scale fiscal policies, including stimulus packages and economic relief measures, to support struggling populations and industries. 2. The Great Reset: Origins and Meaning. Amid the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic, the concept of the Great Reset began to gain attention. The term was popularized by the World Economic Forum, WEF, and its founder, Klaus Schwab. The Great Reset is a call to rethink and rebuild the global economic and political system in response to the profound challenges exposed by the pandemic. According to Schwab and the WEF, the Great Reset is not merely about economic recovery, but about transforming the global system in a way that prioritizes sustainability, social equity, and resilience. Schwab outlined this vision in his 2020 book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, in which he argued that the pandemic presents an opportunity to reimagine the future and address long-standing issues such as climate change, inequality, and economic instability. The idea behind the Great Reset is rooted in several core principles. Economic rebuilding. The pandemic exposed the weaknesses of current economic systems, particularly in terms of global supply chains, the gig economy, and wealth disparities. The Great Reset advocates for a more inclusive and sustainable economic model that addresses inequality, supports small businesses, and promotes environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability. Climate change was already a major issue before the pandemic, and the Great Reset calls for an accelerated transition to a green economy. This includes efforts to reduce carbon emissions, promote renewable energy, and ensure that economic recovery is aligned with long-term environmental goals. And social equity. The pandemic highlighted the deep social and economic inequalities within and between countries. The Great Reset stresses the need for policies that address disparities in income, healthcare, education, and access to opportunities. The vision is to create a more equitable society where prosperity is shared more broadly. Reimagining governance. The Great Reset emphasizes the need for stronger global cooperation and multilateral governance. Given the interconnected nature of the global challenges we face, the concept calls for enhanced collaboration between governments, businesses, and civil society to find solutions to pressing issues such as public health, climate change, and social justice. 3. The Great Reset and economic recovery. One of the primary motivations behind the Great Reset is the need for economic recovery in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The global economic downturn caused by the pandemic was unprecedented, leading to record levels of unemployment, business bankruptcies, and rising poverty rates. Governments responded with various fiscal measures, including stimulus packages, loans, and direct financial assistance to individuals. However, many critics of the traditional economic system argue that the recovery efforts are not sufficient to address the root causes of economic instability and inequality. The Great Reset proposes a more comprehensive approach to economic recovery that goes beyond short-term relief measures and seeks to create a more sustainable and inclusive global economy. For example, Schwab advocates for a stakeholder capitalism model, in which companies prioritize the interests of all stakeholders, including employees, customers, suppliers, and the environment, rather than focusing solely on maximizing profits for shareholders. This approach seeks to create a more equitable distribution of wealth and a stronger focus on long-term societal benefits, rather than short-term financial gain. The Great Reset also calls for the adoption of green technologies and a transition toward a low-carbon economy. The pandemic has shown that environmental sustainability and economic growth can be pursued simultaneously, with investments in renewable energy, green infrastructure, and clean technologies, providing new opportunities for economic development and job creation. 4. Addressing inequality and social justice. Another key aspect of the Great Reset is its emphasis on addressing inequality and social justice. The COVID-19 pandemic disproportionately affected vulnerable populations, including low-income workers, racial and ethnic minorities, and those living in developing countries. The economic and social disruptions caused by the pandemic exacerbated existing inequalities, further widening the gap between the rich and the poor. The Great Reset advocates for policies that prioritize social equity and inclusion. This includes ensuring access to healthcare, education, and job opportunities for all individuals, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status. The idea is to create a more resilient society where the benefits of economic growth are shared more broadly, and where people are empowered to overcome systemic barriers that hinder their progress. Additionally, the Great Reset calls for a rethinking of the global social contract, emphasizing the need for universal basic income, stronger social safety nets, and better protection for workers. This vision aims to create a more fair and just global society, where economic success is not solely determined by individual wealth, but by the collective well-being of society. 5. The role of technology in the Great Reset. Technology is another crucial element in the vision of the Great Reset. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the adoption of digital technologies, with remote work, online education, and e-commerce becoming the norm for millions of people. The Great Reset advocates for using technology to address global challenges, improve productivity, and create a more equitable society. For example, digital technologies can help bridge the gap in access to education and healthcare, particularly in underserved regions. The pandemic demonstrated the potential of telemedicine, online learning platforms, and digital financial services to improve access to essential services. However, the Great Reset emphasizes the need for equitable access to these technologies, ensuring that no one is left behind in the digital transformation. Moreover, the Great Reset envisions a future in which emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and the Internet of Things, IoT, are harnessed to drive sustainability, improve efficiency, and create new opportunities for economic growth. These technologies have the potential to transform industries, streamline supply chains, and enable more personalized and efficient services. 6. Criticism and concerns. While the concept of the Great Reset has garnered significant support, it has also faced criticism and skepticism. Some argue that it represents an attempt by global elites to centralize power and control over the global economy. Critics claim that the Great Reset could result in greater government intervention, corporate consolidation, and surveillance, undermining individual freedoms and privacy. Others worry that the push for a green economy could lead to job losses and economic dislocation, particularly in industries that rely on fossil fuels. The transition to a sustainable economy may be costly, and some argue that it could exacerbate inequality if not managed carefully. Finally, some critics believe that the Great Reset is overly idealistic and fails to address the deeper structural issues in global governance and capitalism. They argue that the focus should be on addressing the root causes of inequality, rather than implementing superficial reforms. 7. Conclusion: a transformational moment. The COVID-19 pandemic has undeniably reshaped the world in profound ways, revealing the interconnectedness of health, economics, and society. The idea of the Great Reset offers a vision of a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient global system that could emerge from the crisis. However, the path to this future is fraught with challenges. The Great Reset requires overcoming entrenched political, economic, and social barriers, and engaging in global cooperation on an unprecedented scale. It is not without its critics, but the pandemic has undeniably created a moment for rethinking and reimagining the world we live in. Whether the Great Reset can fulfill its ambitious promises remains to be seen, but its core ideas about sustainability, equity, and systemic change will likely continue to shape the global conversation for years to come.